The transport ship shook as it entered the orbit of the neutron star. Park pressed his face against the window and watched the massive structure floating in space. The Nexus Military Academy looked like a giant fortress made of dark metal and glowing blue lights. It was the most feared place in the entire galaxy. His hands were sweating. He wiped them on his uniform for the 10th time in the last hour. 22 years old, and he was about to become the first human to ever step inside that academy. The first human to even try. Approaching Docking Bay 7, the pilot announced. The pilot was one of those massive aliens with thick armor covering their entire body. He hadn't spoken to during the entire 3-day journey. Most aliens didn't talk much to humans. They thought humans were too weak, too soft, too breakable. The ship landed with a heavy thud, grabbed his bag and walked to the exit. His heart was beating so fast he could hear it in his ears. The door opened, and cold air rushed in. He stepped onto the platform and looked around. The docking bay was enormous. Hundreds of cadets were arriving from all over the galaxy. Saw cadets, each one looking like they could crush a car with their bare hands. He saw warriors with their 4 arms carrying massive weapons. There were telepaths with their pale skin and large eyes that seemed to look right through him. Every single species here was stronger, faster, or more powerful than humans. Felt very small. Form lines, a voice boomed across the bay. All cadets to the assembly hall now. Followed the crowd. He noticed how the other cadets moved. They walked with confidence, with pride. They belonged here. He was just trying not to trip over his own feet. The assembly hall was even bigger than the docking bay. Thousands of seats arranged in a circle, all facing a central platform. Found a seat near the back. As soon as he sat down, the cadet next to him stood up and moved away. It was and the look he gave was pure disgust. More cadets filled the hall, heard whispers around him. Is that a human? What is it doing here? I give it 3 days before it quits. 3 days, I say one. Stared at his hands. He'd trained for 2 years to get here. He'd passed every test Earth could give him. He'd beaten every record in the human military. But here, he was nobody, worse than nobody. He was a joke. Suddenly, the lights went dark. A single spotlight hit the center platform. A massive figure walked into the light. It was but bigger than any had seen before. The armor on his body was covered in scars and battle marks. This was someone who had survived things that would kill most beings in the galaxy. I am Commander L, the figure said. His voice was deep and rough, like grinding stones. I have been training cadets at this academy for 40 years. I have seen the strongest warriors in the galaxy pass through these halls. I have also seen the weak ones fail. L's eyes scanned the crowd. They stopped when they found. The commander stared at him for a long moment, felt like he was being examined by a predator. This academy has an 80% failure rate, L continued. Most of you will not graduate. Most of you will wash out in the first month. Some of you, he paused, still looking at, will not last a week. The hall was completely silent. In 48 hours, you will face the trial of worth. It is a combat simulation designed to test your reflexes, your strength, and your will to survive. Every year, cadets are hospitalized during this trial. Some never fully recover. This is your first test. This is where we separate the warriors from the pretenders. L walked to the edge of the platform. If any of you wish to leave now, the transport ships are still in the docking bay. There is no shame in knowing your limits, but if you stay, you will be pushed beyond anything you have ever experienced. You will face pain, you will face fear, and you will either overcome it or it will destroy you. Nobody moved, nobody left. Good, L said. Dismissed. Report to your assigned quarters. Training begins at dawn. The lights came back on. Cadets started moving toward the exits, stood up and checked his data pad for his room assignment. Quarter block D, room 847. He started walking, following the signs. Other cadets pushed past him, shoving him aside without apology. One warrior deliberately bumped into him so hard that almost fell. He caught himself against the wall. "Watch where you're going, human," the growled. Said nothing, he just kept walking. He found his room after 20 minutes of searching. It was small, with a bed that looked too hard and a desk that was bolted to the floor. There was a window showing the stars outside. Dropped his bag and sat on the bed. His communicator buzzed. He pulled it out and saw a message was his friend from Earth, the one who had pushed for his acceptance into the academy. She worked as a military liaison between Earth and the Galactic Council. The message read, "I know it's hard, I know they don't believe in you, but remember why you're there. You're not just representing yourself, you're representing all of humanity, every human who was told they weren't good enough, every species that was rejected because they weren't strong enough. You can do this. I believe in you." Read the message 3 times. Then he stood up and looked at himself in the mirror. He looked tired. He looked scared, but he was here. He had made it this far. 48 hours until the trial of worth. He started doing push-ups. His body ached, but he didn't stop. He couldn't stop. Not now, not ever. Outside his window, the neutron star burned with cold blue light. The academy floated in its orbit like a dark fortress. Inside those walls, thousands of cadets were preparing for the trial. They were sharpening their skills, checking their weapons, meditating with their telepathic powers. Just kept doing push-ups. 100, 200, 300. His arms shook, but he didn't stop. This was what humans did. When everyone said it was impossible, they kept going. When logic said they should quit, they pushed harder. When the entire galaxy laughed at them, they proved everyone wrong. Reached 500 push-ups and finally stopped. He collapsed on the floor, breathing hard. Sweat dripped from his face. 48 hours. He would be ready. Stood in front of the simulation chamber. 48 hours had passed faster than he wanted. Around him, other cadets were entering their assigned chambers. Each chamber was designed to test them based on their species. It would test strength. It would test their telepathic abilities. Combat skills. The test was simple: survival. "Cadet Park," a voice called. It was instructor with pale skin and dark eyes. She looked at with something like curiosity. "Your chamber is ready. Once you enter, the simulation will begin. You cannot leave until you complete the course or until your body gives up. Do you understand?" "Yes," instructor said. "I have reviewed your file," said quietly. "Humans have never attempted this trial before. The simulation is calibrated to be challenging for your species. If at any point you need to stop, say the word surrender and you will be extracted. There is no shame in surrender." But there was. If he surrendered, every human after him would face the same doubt, the same mockery, the same closed doors. "I understand," said. He stepped into the chamber. The door sealed behind him with a hiss. Everything went dark. Then the simulation began. Found himself standing in a jungle. The air was hot and thick with humidity. He could hear sounds all around him, animals or something else moving through the trees. His data pad appeared in his hand, showing his objectives. Mission 1. Reach the extraction point 12 kilometers north. Mission 2. Avoid or eliminate hostile drones patrolling the area. Mission 3. Survive. 12 kilometers, that was about 7.5 miles, started running. The ground was rough and covered with roots and rocks. His boots dug into the soft earth. Sweat was already forming on his forehead. The simulation was designed to be hard and it was working, but kept running. He'd been running for 20 minutes when the first drone found him. It was a floating machine with weapons pointed at him. Red lights scanned his body. "Target identified. Eliminating," the drone announced. Dove behind a tree as energy blasts hit the ground where he'd been standing. The tree trunk exploded from the impact, rolled and kept moving. He couldn't fight the drone, not with no weapons, so he ran. The drone followed. More drones appeared. Soon there were 5 of them chasing him through the jungle. Energy blasts hit trees and rocks all around him. One blast grazed his shoulder and pain shot through his arm. The simulation felt real, too real. Jumped over a fallen log and slid down a muddy slope. The drones were right behind him. He saw a river ahead and didn't hesitate. He jumped in. The water was cold and fast. The current pulled him downstream. The drones hovered above the water, scanning for him, but stayed under, holding his breath. His lungs burned. The human body could hold its breath for several minutes if trained. Had trained. He let the current carry him far downstream before he surfaced. The drones were gone. He climbed out of the river and checked his data pad. He traveled 3 kilometers, 9 more to go. Kept running. Hours passed. The jungle changed to mountains, then to a desert. The simulation was testing everything. His body was screaming at him to stop. His legs felt like they were on fire. His shoulder throbbed where the energy blast had hit him. Any other species would have stopped by now, should have stopped. But humans were different. Humans had evolved by chasing animals until those animals collapsed from exhaustion. Humans could run for days if they had to. Humans could push their bodies past the point where logic said to stop. Kept running. He'd been running for 14 hours when he finally saw the extraction point. It was a landing platform on top of a cliff, but between him and the platform were 10 more drones. These ones were bigger, more dangerous. His body was failing, he could barely stand, but his mind was clear. Humans had one more advantage: they could think, they could improvise. He looked around and saw loose rocks near the cliff edge. He saw the position of the drones. He saw the pattern of their patrol routes, and he saw a way. Picked up rocks and started throwing them, not at the drones but at the cliff walls above them. The rocks triggered small avalanches. The drones moved to investigate the sounds. When they were out of position, ran. He ran straight through the gaps they'd left. Energy blasts hit the ground around him, but he didn't stop. He reached the platform and slammed his hand on the extraction beacon. Trial complete, the computer announced. Everything went white, then was back in the chamber. The door opened. He stumbled out and fell to his knees. Medical staff rushed toward him, but he waved them away. "I'm fine," he gasped. "I'm fine." But he wasn't fine. His body was shaking. His clothes were soaked with sweat. His shoulder was burned. He could barely breathe, but he'd done it. He'd completed the trial. Instructor was staring at him with wide eyes. 14 hours and 37 minutes, she said quietly. That's a new academy record. Looked up at her. What? The previous record was 11 hours and 12 minutes, said. Set by a cadet 15 years ago. You broke it by more than 3 hours. Other cadets were coming out of their chambers. They heard words. They stared at. The human cadet who wasn't supposed to last a week had just set a new record on the first trial. Commander L appeared, pushing through the crowd. His face was dark with anger. This is impossible. Run a diagnostic on the simulation. Check for errors. Commander, I already checked, said. There were no errors. Cadet Park completed the trial within standard parameters. Standard parameters for humans are lower than other species, L growled. He should have had an easier course. The course difficulty was set to Academy standards, sir, replied. The same level as all other cadets. L's jaw clenched. He looked at with pure hatred in his eyes. Get to medical, then report to my office. This isn't over. The commander stormed away. The other cadets continued to stare. Some looked impressed. Others looked angry. One of them, with 4 muscular arms, stepped forward. His name tag read. You cheated, said. There is no way a human could beat that trial. No way you could beat my time. What was your time? Asked, still trying to catch his breath. 7 hours and 18 minutes, said with pride. Said nothing. He just looked at, the look said everything. 7 hours versus 14 hours, had run twice as long as this warrior. His face turned dark. I challenge you, a duel tomorrow. We will see if you are truly worthy of that record. Fine, said. He was too tired to argue. Medical staff finally convinced him to come with them. As they led him away, heard the whispers starting again. But this time they were different. Did you hear? 14 hours. A human set the record. Maybe we underestimated them. Smiled despite the pain, one trial down. The real battle was just beginning. The duel happened in the training arena. Hundreds of cadets gathered to watch. They wanted to see if the human's record was real or just luck. Stood on one side of the arena, still sore from the trial. Stood on the other side, his 4 arms flexing with confidence. This is a standard combat duel, instructor announced. First to 3 points wins. No lethal force. Begin. Charged immediately. He was fast for someone so big. His fists came at like hammers. Dodged the first punch, then the second. But the third one caught him in the chest. He flew backward and hit the ground hard. 1 point to cadet called. Stood up slowly. His chest hurt. Was stronger than any human he'd ever fought. Much stronger. But had fought stronger opponents before in simulation. He knew what to do. Don't fight strength with strength. Fight smart. Charged again. This time didn't try to dodge. He moved forward inside's reach. The punches missed because was too close. Struck its knee, the joint that held all that weight. Stumbled. 1 point to Cadet Park, announced. The crowd murmured in surprise, roared in anger and attacked again. But now he was angrier, more reckless. Stayed calm. He dodged, he moved, he waited for openings. When overextended, struck. Another point. The score was tied. Was breathing hard now, frustrated. Stand still and fight like a warrior. Why? Asked. So you can hit me easier. That made even angrier. He charged one more time, using all 4 arms at once. Couldn't dodge them all. 2 punches hit him, but he managed to grab one of his arms and used his own momentum against him. Stumbled forward off balance. Swept his legs and the massive warrior fell. 3 points to Cadet Park called. Match over. The arena was silent. Then a few cadets started clapping. Not many, but some. Got up slowly, staring at with a strange expression. Not anger anymore, something else. You fight differently, said. Not with honor, but effectively. I fight to win, said, offering his hand. Looked at the hand for a long moment. Then he grasped it. Perhaps there is more to humans than I thought. Over the next weeks, training became harder. Commander L seemed determined to break. The exercises that usually took months were compressed into weeks. Sleep time was cut. Food rations were reduced. The pace was brutal. But adapted, that was what humans did. They adapted. Zero-gravity combat training was announced. Most cadets struggled with the 3-dimensional movement. Their instincts worked against them in zero-G, but's mind adjusted quickly. He could visualize the space around him, predict movements, and react faster than expected. He scored in the top 10%. Team exercises came next. Was assigned to a squad with and 3 other cadets. They were given impossible missions. Rescue simulations where they had to save hostages from a fortified position. Assault scenarios where they were outnumbered 10-1. Squad started winning, not through brute force but through strategy, taught them to think differently, to use the environment, to be unpredictable. Despite his initial resistance, became one of strongest supporters. You see the battlefield like art, said one day after training. Where others see obstacles, you see opportunities. One evening, was returning to his quarters when he saw someone waiting at his door. It was a human woman he'd never seen before. She was wearing civilian clothes, not a cadet uniform. Cadet Park, she said quietly. My name is. We need to talk inside now. Opened his door and let her in. Who are you? I'm an observer sent by the Galactic Council, said. I've been documenting discrimination against lesser species at this academy for 6 months, and I've found something dangerous. She pulled out a data pad and showed files, equipment logs, simulation parameters, maintenance records. Commander L has been tampering with your trials, explained. He increased the difficulty of your trial of worth by 30% above standard. He's been sabotaging equipment during your training sessions. This morning, I found evidence that he's planning something for the final trial. The Crucible said he'd heard about it. The week-long final mission that every cadet had to pass. The trial that had killed cadets in the past. Yes, L has access to override the safety protocols. He can make the simulation lethal. I think he's planning to, paused. I think he's planning to kill you during the Crucible. Sat down heavily. Why? Why does he hate humans so much? It's not just humans, said. Look at these records. For the last 40 years, cadets from weaker species have failed at 3 times the rate of stronger species. Equipment malfunctions happen more often to them. Trial difficulties are inconsistent. L has been maintaining the Academy's reputation by ensuring only the strongest species succeed. He's been rigging the system, said. Yes, and you're threatening that system. You prove that a human can not only survive here but excel. If you complete the Crucible, it exposes 40 years of discrimination. It proves that thousands of cadets failed not because they were weak, but because they were sabotaged. Stood up and paced. What can we do? I'm sending this evidence to On Earth. She's coordinating with the Galactic Council, but investigations take time. The Crucible starts in 3 days. You could withdraw. Wait until this is resolved. No, said immediately. If I withdraw, L wins. He'll just bury this evidence and continue destroying lives. I need to complete the Crucible. You could die, said. I could die crossing the street, replied. I didn't come here to be safe. I came here to prove something. Nodded slowly. Then we need a plan. If L disables the safety protocols, we need evidence that can't be hidden. I'll set up monitoring equipment, and I'll need you to wear a recorder during the Crucible. Dunn said. That night couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about what had told him. 40 years of discrimination. Thousands of cadets who failed because the system was rigged against them. All those beings who were told they weren't good enough when the truth was they never had a fair chance. Made a decision. He would complete the Crucible, not just for himself or for humanity, but for every species that had been pushed down, every cadet who had been broken by a system designed to break them. 3 days later stood with his squad in the briefing room. Was there. So was a young cadet who had started training with methods. 3 other cadets completed the squad. Commander L appeared on the screen. Cadets, the Crucible begins in 1 hour. You will be dropped on a hostile moon. You will complete 3 objectives. Many squads fail this trial. Some cadets do not return. If you wish to withdraw, now is the time. Nobody moved. Good, L said, and for just a moment his eyes found. There was something dark in that look, something final. Felt the recording device hidden under his uniform, was monitoring everything. The Crucible was about to begin. And Park was ready. The dropship hit the moon's surface hard, and his squad scrambled out into a swamp that smelled like rotting plants and chemicals. The air was thick and hot. Above them, dark clouds blocked out most of the light from the distant sun. Objectives are uploading now, said, checking his display. Infiltrate enemy base 2 kilometers east. Extract intelligence from central computer. Survive enemy forces. Time limit, 7 days. 7 days in this. The cadet looked around nervously. I can barely think straight. There's some kind of interference here. That was the first problem. The moon was designed to challenge each species differently. For the telepaths, the mineral formations created psychic noise that made their abilities useless. For the heat and humidity would exhaust them quickly. The swamp made their heavy armor a burden instead of protection. "We need to move," said. "Standing here makes us targets." They started moving through the swamp. The water came up to their knees. Strange sounds echoed in the distance. The mission had officially begun, but something felt wrong too. The simulation felt too real, too dangerous. After an hour of walking, one of the squad members, a named Boren, collapsed. "Can't breathe, too hot." Checked Boren's vital signs. His body temperature was dangerously high. "We need to cool him down, now." They found shade under some large plants and used water from the swamp to cool Boren. It took 30 minutes before they could continue. Time they didn't have. "This is bad," muttered. "The simulation is supposed to be hard, but this is beyond training parameters." Thought about's warning, about L's plan. "Keep moving, we'll adapt." They reached the enemy base by nightfall. It was a fortress built into a cliff face, with guard towers and patrol drones. The defenses looked impossibly strong. "How are we supposed to infiltrate that?" asked. Studied the base carefully. "We don't use strength. We use their own systems against them. Look at the patrol patterns. There's a 15-second gap every 10 minutes at the north entrance. Can you sense the guards' positions even without your telepathy?" "Maybe, if I focus on physical sounds instead of mental signatures." "Good, you take Boren and circle to the south. Make noise, create a distraction. The rest of us will enter through the north during the gap." "That's not honorable combat," protested. "It's not supposed to be," said. "It's supposed to work." They executed the plan. Distraction pulled most of the guards to the south side. Teams slipped in through the north. They moved through the base like shadows, avoiding patrols, staying quiet. It was working. They reached the central computer room. But when tried to extract the data, alarms blared throughout the base. "That wasn't supposed to happen," one of the other cadets said. Suddenly, energy weapons fired at them. Real energy weapons. The blasts hit the wall next his head and chunks of stone exploded. That wasn't simulation damage. That was real. "Run!" shouted. The squad ran through the corridors with enemy forces chasing them. More weapons fired. One blast hit a cadet named Minu in the leg. He screamed and fell. The wound was real. The blood was real. "This isn't a simulation anymore," yelled. His mind raced. L had done it. He disabled the safety protocols. This wasn't training. This was an actual death trap. "We need to abort," shouted. "The abort codes won't work if the safety protocols are off," said. "We're trapped here. The only way out is to complete the mission or die." Finished. They dragged Minu behind cover, checked the wound. It was bad but not fatal if they could get medical help. But they were in the middle of a hostile base with no way to call for extraction. "We have two choices," said. "We can try to surrender and hope someone notices the protocols are disabled, or we can complete the mission." "If we surrender, L will cover this up," said. "He'll say we failed, we'll be expelled or worse." "And if we continue, we might die," another cadet added. Looked at each member of his squad. "I won't lie to you. This is beyond anything we trained for. This is real combat, real danger. I can't ask you to risk your lives for this." "You're not asking," said. "We're choosing. We started this mission together. We finish it together." The others nodded. Even Minu, clutching his wounded leg, managed to nod. "Then we do this smart," said. "We use every advantage we have. Can you get back to the computer without being seen?" "Maybe, if you provide another distraction." "Boren, can you still fight?" "Until I can't," Boren growled. Pulled out the data chip had given him. "This recorder is transmitting everything. They know what's happening. We just need to stay alive long enough for help to arrive. And we need that intelligence data to prove we completed the mission." They split up again and led another attack on the south side, this time with real weapons they'd taken from fallen guards. The enemy forces concentrated on them. It was brutal combat. Took a hit to his side that made him gasp in pain, but he kept fighting. Meanwhile, slipped back to the computer room. Despite the psychic interference, he managed to extract the data, but more guards found him. He had to fight his way out using moves that had taught him. Not powerful moves, but smart ones, efficient ones. The squad regrouped at an emergency exit. They were all wounded now, all exhausted, but they had the data. They had proof. Now we just need to survive until extraction, said. Extraction isn't coming, said, checking his communicator. L has locked down all transport frequencies. Looked at the data chip in his hand, then at his squad. They had come so far. They had survived when they should have died. They had adapted when the galaxy said they couldn't. Then we walk out, said. We march to the extraction point, and we don't stop until we get there or until someone finally notices what's happening here. That's 40 kilometers through hostile territory, someone said. Yes, agreed, and we're going to make it. They started walking. Enemy forces pursued them, but the squad had learned to work together. They covered each other. They used the terrain. They refused to quit. Hours turned into days. They fought when they had to. They hid when they could. They kept moving forward, always forward. On the third day, collapsed from blood loss, picked him up and carried him. We don't leave anyone behind. That's what you taught us. On the fourth day, they saw rescue ships approaching. Had done it. The evidence had reached the Galactic Council. Help was finally coming. The squad fell to their knees as the ships landed. They had survived. Barely, but they had survived. And they had the intelligence data to prove they'd completed the mission. Medical teams rushed to treat squad as soon as they landed back at the academy. Woke up in a hospital bed 2 days later with bandages covering half his body. The first thing he saw was sitting beside him. You're awake, she said with relief. You've been unconscious for 48 hours. The others, asked, his voice rough. All alive. Mean you will need surgery on his leg, but he'll recover. Boren had severe heat exhaustion. Has some injuries but nothing permanent. Was asking about you every hour. Tried to sit up but pain shot through his side. The mission data. Safe and being analyzed by the Galactic Council right now. Leaned forward. You need to know what's happening. The evidence gathered combined with what happened during the Crucible has caused a massive scandal. The entire galaxy is watching this academy now. Where's L? Under guard, waiting for a hearing, but he's demanding to see you. He claims you violated protocols and endangered your squad. He's trying to turn this around. Closed his eyes. Even now L was fighting. When is the hearing? Tomorrow. Can you stand? I'll stand, said. I didn't survive that mission just to miss this. The next day, walked into the main assembly hall with his squad beside him. Every seat was filled with cadets, instructors, and council representatives. Commander L stood on the central platform, his armor polished, his expression confident. This hearing will determine whether Commander L acted within his authority, a council representative announced. Commander, you may speak first. L stepped forward. I have served this academy for 40 years. I have maintained the highest standards of military excellence. These cadets before you violated safety protocols during the Crucible. They engaged in reckless behavior that endangered lives. Cadet Park, in particular, led his squad into unnecessary danger through his arrogance and inexperience. The crowd murmured. L continued. Humans are not ready for this academy. This incident proves it. I recommend Cadet Park be expelled and that humanity's participation in this institution be reconsidered. You disabled the safety protocols, said loudly. L turned to him. That is a serious accusation. Do you have proof? Stood up from the crowd. I have proof. I am observer assigned by the Galactic Council to monitor this academy. I have documented 40 years of systematic discrimination, equipment sabotage, trial manipulation. And on the day of the Crucible, Commander L personally overrode the safety systems. She projected data on two screens around the hall: logs, records, video evidence. The crowd watched in silence as the truth unfolded before them. This was attempted murder, continued. Commander L tried to kill these cadets to maintain his false narrative that weaker species cannot succeed here. L's confident expression cracked. These records are fabricated. I was testing their resolve. Real combat situations have protocols, a council representative interrupted. The Crucible is training, not an execution. You deliberately put cadets in lethal danger without authorization. They survived, didn't they? L snapped. This proves my methods work. I push cadets beyond their limits because war doesn't care about feelings. War doesn't care about fairness. No, said standing up. You don't push cadets, you destroy them. I have been at this academy for 2 years. I have watched good warriors fail because their equipment malfunctioned at critical moments. I have seen cadets from smaller species face impossible challenges while stronger species received advantages. I thought this was normal. I thought this was how warriors were made. He looked at, until I met someone who showed me what real strength looks like. Other cadets began standing. A cadet spoke. I failed the Crucible last year. My telepathic equipment failed during the mission. I was told I was weak, but according to these records, my equipment was sabotaged. More cadets stood. More stories emerged. Years of discrimination. Years of cadets believing they weren't good enough when the truth was they never had a fair chance. Commander L looked around the hall at the cadets standing against him. For the first time, fear showed on his face. The evidence is clear, the council representative said. Commander L, you are removed from your position effective immediately. You will face criminal charges for your actions. The academy will undergo a full investigation and reform. This is wrong, L shouted. I maintained standards. I kept this academy strong. You kept it corrupt, said from her seat. Real strength doesn't come from making others fail. It comes from helping everyone reach their full potential. Guards led L away. He was still shouting about honor and tradition, but nobody was listening anymore. The council representative turned to Cadet Park. Your squad completed the Crucible under impossible conditions. You extracted the required intelligence and brought your entire team home alive. This hearing finds that you acted with exceptional courage and leadership. The hall erupted in applause. Cadets who had mocked weeks ago were now cheering for him. Even some instructors were clapping. But didn't feel victorious. He felt tired. He thought about all the cadets who had failed before him, all the beings who were told they weren't good enough. Permission to speak, asked. Granted. I didn't do this alone. My squad trusted me even when I led them into danger, risked her career to expose the truth, fought for humanity's place here when nobody else believed. And there are thousands of cadets who should have graduated from this academy but were destroyed by a corrupt system. Looked around the hall. If you really want to honor what happened here, don't just punish L. Fix this place. Make it fair. Give everyone the chance they deserve. The council representative nodded slowly. The academy will be reformed. We will review every failure from the last 40 years. Cadets who were unjustly dismissed will be invited to return. New standards will be implemented. Standards based on merit, not species. 3 months later stood at graduation with his squad. They had completed their training together. Was there, now one of his closest friends. Was there, having learned to fight without relying solely on telepathy. Borin, Minyu, and the others stood proudly in their new uniforms. But the real change was visible throughout the academy. 47 species that had been rejected or had failed unfairly were given second chances. New cadets from smaller species were arriving every day. The academy's reputation was no longer built on discrimination, but on true excellence. After the ceremony, walked to the academy entrance. There was something new there. A statue. It showed a human running, captured in mid-stride with determination on his face. The plaque beneath it read in multiple languages. When they said it was impossible, he ran anyway. When they said humans were weak, he proved them wrong. When they said one cadet couldn't change the galaxy, he shattered their expectations. Below that, in Korean and Galactic Standard, dedicated to every cadet who refused to quit, and every species told they weren't good enough. The Academy now honors endurance over arrogance, adaptation over tradition, and courage over conformity. Stood beside looking at the statue. You did it. You changed everything. No, said. We all did it. Every person who refused to accept that discrimination was normal. Every cadet who kept trying even when the system was rigged against them. So what now? Asked. You've been offered a command position. You could stay here, train the next generation. Looked up at the stars above the Academy. I'm going home, back to Earth. There are millions of humans who think they're not strong enough for places like this. I want to show them that they are. I want to train them, prepare them, so the next human who comes here doesn't have to fight alone. The Academy won't be the same without you. Good smiled. It shouldn't be the same, it should be better. Years later, the Academy would become the model for military training throughout the galaxy. The human methods of endurance, adaptability, and creative thinking would be taught alongside traditional combat. Species that were once considered too weak would produce some of the finest warriors in galactic history. And every cadet who walked through those doors would see the statue of Park, the first human who dared to try, the cadet who ran for 14 hours when everyone said it was impossible, the one who shattered expectations and changed the galaxy forever. His legacy wasn't just survival, it was proof that strength comes in many forms. And sometimes, the greatest warriors are the ones everyone underestimated.